All right, hey there, phone people. Sorry, almost forgot to call in. Everybody is muted, so you don't need to worry about doing that on your own. Please make sure you're on Skype video with us. Just a reminder of our ground rules really quickly. Make sure you're muted on Skype. For attendance, you need to click on the link in the Outlook invite and fill in your name and your store's 3-letter code. This is only going to be up during the call, so you need to do that now. We're going to pull it down after the call, so you can't go back and add yourself later. If you're having trouble hearing through the computer, call into the conference call line that is listed out in the update. If you call in and you're not muted, mute yourself, *6, please. Don't forget to spit. And hey, then all these bottles should be sampled out to customers on the floor post-call. Remember, waste is a ratio, so as we sample these out to customers and drive those sales, it helps to pay for this call and allows us to keep doing what we're doing.
All right, people, so we have some fun stuff going on today. We're going to be going through our first region section, which is going to be a little bit different than the varietal sections we've done the past few weeks. So Allison is going to kick us off by going through the regions, and then we'll taste the wines. Because we do not have a tasting wheel for each region, we have introduced a new method to you all. So these sheets are from the Court of Master Somms, and it's very similar to what is in the book, but it's just not as cool and pretty. But it has less color. It's squares, not round, less flow. But all types of descriptors, and we're going to do this in kind of a deductive way, just like we always do. We're going to fill this out based on what we taste and what we see and smell and all of those things. Everyone's palate is different. This is your experience, so own it. And like Allison mentioned earlier, we have a super special guest that we're very excited to introduce. So Madeline Puckette, the author of the Wine Folly, is joining us today. So Allison's going to switch it over so that Madeline can say hi.
All you.
Hi, guys. This is my spittoon.
So much nicer than ours.
We need a new one. Allegro.
Allegro's good. It's good. No, this is my mother-in-law's antique thing, so I figured it doesn't get used, so.
Very nice.
Hi, y'all. I'm very excited to be here. Very, very fun. I want to learn from you how you guys learn, so this is really super cool.
Awesome. All right. So we will be mostly locked on us today. And Madeline will be joining us, and then we'll switch over to her if she's got anything specific to add in. But other than that, it's pretty much business as usual. Let's jump over to our PowerPoint.
So everyone should open up to the U.S. section, page 210.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 main wine regions in USA wine. The first one being California. So if you flip to page 214, you will see a lovely map of California. Within California, we're going to focus on 3 main regions. There are 6 main regions where you have redwoods going north to south, redwoods, North Coast, Sierra foothills, inland valleys, Central Coast, and South Coast. The 3 biggest production regions and biggest geography regions are North Coast, Central Coast, and inland valleys. So that's what we're going to talk about now. The North Coast and the Central Coast can both be split into warm and cool climates. So you've got part of those areas that are going to be warm, part of them that are going to be cool. In the North Coast, warm climates include the inland areas of Napa, Sonoma, and Lake County, and the cooler climates are the coastal areas of Sonoma, Napa, and Mendocino County.
When we get into tasting, we've tried to pick an array of wines from warm and cool climates so that you guys will be able to taste some of those differences. Those warm climate wines are where you're going to get those more juicy, fruit-forward flavors, and then those cooler climate wines is where you'll start to see a little bit more acidity and a leaner style of wine. So that'll be cool when we start to taste and see the difference.
We actually have a slide on this. I might just hit that first. Probably would have been better before California. Oh, okay.
We're
So
just rolling with it,
we're rolling
like we do.
like we do. So when we talk climates, cool climates, you've got cool climate and warm climate. At peak season, these two climates are going to be the same temperature. So it's not that cool climate just in general is like a lower curve of temperature. It's actually that cool climate is more of a curve and warm climate's a little bit more consistent. So cool climate has a greater temperature variant throughout the season. And even though they're as hot as the warm climates at their peak season, or at season peak, temperatures drop off quickly towards harvest. These lower temps mean that the acidity is preserved better in the grapes. It also means it's more difficult for the grapes to ripen. So overall, you see more tart fruit flavors and more acidity. Whereas with warm climate, they tend to be more temperature consistent throughout the whole growing season. You don't have that sharp climate drop off going into harvest. So it allows the grapes to become more fully ripe. It does result in more acidity being lost in the grapes. So in general, warm climate grapes have more ripe fruit flavors and less acidity. We'll taste this, like Dana was saying, when we're tasting, in specific the Pinot, we have a Central Coast Pinot and a Willamette Pinot, and you'll taste that very much there.
Remember a couple of calls ago when we talked about our porch pounders and our patio pounders, right? So those porch pounders, those are probably going to be warm climate wines because they're just juicy and yummy and you can guzzle them. And those cooler climate wines that have more acidity, those are going to be better for food.
Yeah, exactly. All right, scroll back up. Okay, so our California slide. So jumping back in, so North Coast and Central Coast, you have both warm and cool climates. For each of these areas, the cool climates are going to be the areas that are a little bit more coastal. That's because you have that marine fog in the morning. That's going to help keep the temperature down a little bit, and that's what's splitting up those areas into cool and warm. And then for inland valleys in California, it's pretty much just hot and dry. You have the Madera and Lodi AVAs in there that account for 75% of all wine production. So while it's a large geographic area, a couple powerhouse AVAs. All right. Next up, we've got a slide for Washington. So when we talk northwest region of the USA, we're talking Washington and Oregon. In Washington, we've got two main areas. We have the Puget Sound, and then we have Columbia Valley. Puget Sound is going to be a little bit more cool in climate, again, because that marine fog that we have coming off the bay there, where the Columbia Valley is going to be more warm climate. It's inland. It's a very large geographic area. It covers like a quarter of Washington state. Actually, it's a pretty large area there. And then jumping to Oregon, on our Oregon slide, we can see we have three main wine regions here. Again, going north to south, we have Columbia Valley. So this is connecting to the Columbia Valley in Washington State because they border up against each other. Then the Willamette Valley and Southern Oregon. And in general, we're going to see warm climate in the Columbia Valley, just like we talked about with Washington. And then Willamette and Southern Oregon are both going to be cooler climates because they're a little bit closer to the coast. And then lastly, for wine regions, this is a really fancy-dancy slide you guys will see when we post it. Yeah, iPhone photo. Good camera, though. We have the Northeast. So Northeast is much smaller, more scattered regions. If you remember, I believe it was 2 years ago that we had the Empire State Finger Lakes Riesling.
2 years ago.
So that was a pretty delicious Riesling from the Finger Lakes area up in New York, upstate New York. But you have some growing areas up there. You've got some near Niagara. You have Hudson River. For us in the MA, we've got a couple different areas in Virginia. Maryland, that new local wine that we just launched this month. Yeah, time flies.
It's Christmas. We're planning Christmas right now, so we don't know what date it is.
It's very confusing. So we do have a bunch of smaller regions with much smaller production. And that's where we get, for us on the East Coast, a lot of our local wines, where we don't have them throughout the whole region because they are smaller distribution and production.
What's really cool though, and what I really thought was just so awesome when I was looking at this map, was there's a lot of wine being made in Virginia. And something that we have identified for our region is that we really need to focus on those local wines. That's what is allowing us to elevate our relationship with Old Westminster, where we launched those new wine spritzers. They have some awesome natural selections that we're going to be working with. And as we prepare to open our Tyson's Corner flagship store in the fall, we have some trips planned to some of these wineries in Virginia, so we'll be excited to share some of that with you guys and authorize some new items and really start to connect to the wine regions in our region, so that we can just have more friends and drink more wine together, sell more stuff, you know.
So Travis, to answer your email that you sent earlier today, we don't have a comprehensive list yet for Virginia. We are working on it, we're building it, and we will share it when we have it, but a little bit more time on that.
All over it though.
All over it. All right, so AVA. We've referenced this a couple times. We're going to talk through this and then we'll jump into our wines. So we'll have a slide for this too. So AVA stands for American Viticultural Areas. So just like when we're talking, like when we talk parm and when we talk, help me out with some other.
Balsamic vinegar.
Yep. And we've got those federally controlled areas where it can't be called X if it's not from this specific area. That's what. Yes. that's what AVA is for American wines. So they're grape growing regions with distinguishing features that allow people to identify quality or taste or other traits of a wine that are unique to its geographic origin. One of the stipulations to be labeled with that AVA name is 85% or more of the wine has to be derived from grapes grown within the boundaries of the AVA, and the wine must then be fully finished within the state or states that AVA is located in. Sometimes you'll have an AVA that straddles state lines, so it would just need to be finished in one of those states. Certain states have stricter standards for the name, for use of the name of the AVA or appellation on wine labels. So when we're saying 85% of the grape has to be that, to call it a cab, 85% of the wine build has to be Cabernet. Some areas have raised that number. I believe like Willamette Pinot, I think has to be 90 or 95%. So there are certain areas that have a higher standard there, but in general, the AVA standard is 85%. And then the AVAs are set by the TTB, by the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Tariff Board. Federal.
Some government, something.
Yeah, it's federal, so don't mess with it. It is an enforced thing, so if you see an AVA listed on something, it should be real deal. There are over 200 AVAs in America. All right. Let's talk wine.
Let's taste some stuff. All right, so we are going to start with wine number 1, which is our Kung Fu Girl Columbia Valley Riesling.
Thank y'all.
So warmer climate here. We're going to do all the swirling and the sniffing and start to build out what we're seeing in this wine. Gosh, it smells so good. Very perfumey, floral, a little bit of petrol. Color, pale straw. I'm feeling some spit cup envy. Yeah, over Madeline's bucket. So
Ours is not as cool.
no,
No lid.
we're gonna have to figure this out. Yeah. So that is tasting really light. Has some great citrus and peach. What are you all tasting? Talk to me. You're all being quiet today. Don't be shy.
Sean said he replaced the gnarly head and ravage. So now that I've read that out loud, I don't think it has to do with what we're tasting right now.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Like,
End of the lineup, Sean. End of the lineup. But noted.
I was like, what? Am I missing something?
He's getting an angry email later.
I like the acidity on this.
Yeah, me too. It's, really juicy and just easy to drink. I think we've talked before about how Riesling just has such a bad reputation. It's got this like sugar shack reputation that's just not necessarily true. I mean, there's definitely a ton of sweet Riesling out there, but the Rieslings that we're selling the most of and that our customers are looking for are this drier style, really easy to drink, really great food wines. I would love some Thai food or some sushi with this.
Yeah. So we have Shannon from Newport News says apple tangerine slate. Sean from Wexford, redeeming himself, says Vouvray.
Quite redeemed.
My pen broke.
It's not even your pen, it's my pen.
I broke your pen and I can't write down my thoughts. Thanks.
Heads up, if you ever do a tasting with Dana, you need to bring an extra highlighter for her and at least 2 extra pens because she might break the first one.
Just gonna taste my mind.
All right, so back to tasting notes. Amanda from PCC says juicy with some minerality. Michael from Cincinnati is saying green apple. Eric from Ashburn is saying pear and chalk. Sean saying crisp finish. Yeah, that crisp acidity is nice. So are you looking at your white wine sheet as we go there? Use that deductive tasting format words for reference on there if you're needing description words.
What's cool about this is that it gives you kind of all the options and it asks you like, do you taste this? Do you not? Can you describe it? The more and more we get into this, you guys should be, and I believe you are, getting more comfortable with describing wines to customers. The more you taste, the more comfortable you're going to get. I'm not trying to share the wine with Allison, apparently. So moving on to our A to Z Pinot Gris from Oregon. I'm excited to give you guys this other format to take notes and to learn at another level. So keep talking to customers about what you're tasting and sell more stuff.
I always find that if I narrow it down to like a category, like a list of categories I go through with the yes or no, it helps me move from being super overwhelmed by everything I may or may not be tasting to kind of going through and check boxing like, okay, yeah, I do taste that. No, I don't think I taste that. Yeah, I guess kind of. It helps me structure my brain.
I smelled pineapple instantly off of this. It smells so good. I tasted this a minute ago, and the acidity kind of blew the top off of the wine. It's on fire acidity today.
Sharon says honeysuckle lime.
Very tropical.
I'm a little congested. I'm having trouble today. I smell like bruised pear, but I think I might just be crazy.
You might just have allergies.
Might just have allergies. Yay, it's spring.
Orange zest and peach.
So that Riesling had great acidity as well, but this one has a lot more today, or at least that's what's showing up for me.
And I don't think we clearly stated, so we've moved on to the Pinot Gris now.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I thought I said it, but maybe not.
I think the great wine thievery
But yeah.
threw us off there.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
So you can really, I think, tell the difference between the cold and the warm climate between the two that we just had, specifically because of that acidity. Even though Riesling has a lot, this one's just really zippy and bitey. So a lot of salivation happening right here. So our next pair, if you guys have 2 glasses, awesome. If you don't, no big deal. But I think the way that we're going to roll with this one specifically is to look at these 2 Pinots side by side because they are going to be super different. I'm going to do a little splash rinse here to get that old wine out of my glass, dump it out. Want to do that, Allison?
Oh, thank you. You love me.
Who loves you. I love you.
If you really love me, you'll pick up the wine for the next call.
It took me 2 hours to get to work today. How am I supposed to get to a store that sells wine and get to work on time? I moved to Baltimore, guys, and it's just really been rough this week.
Can you tell me about your great morning?
Oh, look, I really like this one. I poured a lot. It took me 2 hours to get to work today.
After
Someone broke into my car.
Bad Thursday.
Okay,
So
Madeline actually commented on the Pinot Gris. If anyone else is getting bubbles in this Pinot Gris, sometimes a producer will bottle with a little CO2 to help present the wine with as much acidity as possible.
I think that happened, and that
would
might
be why-
be why the cap blew.
we got a nice substantial pop when we opened that A to Z. Okay, so I need that bottle back, Allie, when you're done, so I can show what we have. You can finish for it first. Okay, sorry.
So, guys, we have the Willamette Valley Vineyards Pinot Noir, and we have the Sean Minor Pinot Noir from California.
There you go.
So we are tasting side by side a cold climate Pinot from Oregon and a warmer climate Pinot from California.
So before you even start, look at the color difference on those guys. By now we've given up on trying to show color difference in the video. But hold them over your paper and look at that color difference there.
I would say one is a nice ruby and the other one is a little garnet. Has a little bit of a darker color, maybe a little bit of rust.
So I was gonna say a little bit more rust.
Amanda from PCC is asking, is that the La Crema that you're talking about for PA?
So yeah, I think in PA we did Willamette Valley Vineyards and La Crema, yes. So let's start with that Willamette Valley and give it a nice sniff.
I can smell this one.
Yeah, smelling a little bit of earth there, some berry.
Yeah.
And then we'll switch over and
baking
dip our
spice.
nose into that California Pinot. That smells a little bit more like cherry pie.
Madeline said if we want, she can walk us through California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Allison, do you want to get it all over to her?
All right, we'll bounce. Let's bounce over to you, lady.
Can everyone hear me, hopefully?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we give this a little sniff. One of the things I look for between the two, I don't have the Willamette, so I'm going to be guessing here a little bit, but it's the intensity of the smell coming out of the glass. You have to really stick your nose in for the Willamette or the other one, or are they about the same? Another thing you can look at is the tears forming on the side of the glass. It changes in every room that you're in because of the evaporation and the humidity of the room and the temperature of the room. But if you're comparing two wines next to each other, you can see if the tears form quickly and move quickly, you've got a lighter alcohol wine, and if they're moving a little bit slower, you might have a higher alcohol wine. So you can look at the two glasses at the tears or the legs on the side of the glass and maybe make a conclusion there. And then I'm smelling the Sean Minor, and I get sort of baked raspberry, a little bit of sort of dried Mexican chocolate, more like baked, sort of like dried floral notes. And the slightest hint of like Coca-Cola or like that Red Bull cola, that natural cola. So maybe allspice, those kinds of spice aromas, which are probably from oak aging. Let's give it a taste. Really swish it around your palate and then feel for sweetness right at the front of your palate. You get the acidity, and then you should feel the grit of tannin sort of on the tongue and the roof of your mouth there. And In this particular wine, the Sean Minor, I'm not getting too much tannin, just a little bit on the front of my palate, on the tongue and the roof of my mouth, and then it generally goes away. And then I feel alcohol in the back of my throat there, so I suspect maybe a little higher alcohol level. I'm guessing 13 plus, 13.9 or something. It says 14.2, so that's pretty close. And then, so that alcohol will make the tannin taste less intense if you have higher alcohol wine. There we go. That's Pinot from California.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And all of those things are super right on. That baked fruit is so true. Cherry, raspberry. The second you said it, totally showed up. And now moving over to the Oregon, we're going to have a different experience here. So I definitely start to smell a little bit of earthiness in this wine that you don't get from the California Pinot.
Get a little bit of like wet outside after the rain in summer, like kind of the earthy, fresh dirt smell.
Almost even a little bit herbaceous. Now let's get that in your mouth. And instantly for me, I can tell how much more acidity this wine has than the one that we just tasted. My mouth is watering. I want a snack. It's stimulating my appetite.
I usually want a snack.
I mean, you always gotta have a snack.
Mm-hmm.
Madeline, can you go back over that piece you said about tannins versus alcohol very briefly?
So there's some studies. If you can you hear me? I can just talk. You don't need to go back to me. It's fine. There's some studies that actually more recently, Dr. Andrew Waterhouse was trying to understand the relationship between tannin and alcohol, and they're concluding that alcohol level does influence our perception of tannin. And so if you have a higher alcohol level, you can get away with a lot more tannin because the alcohol level almost acts as a palate cleanser at the back of your throat and removes the perception of tannin in your mouth, so to speak. We don't know why this is. This is very new. I think it just came out a couple months ago. But basically, neat science. That's cool. So with something like Tannat or a high tannin wine like Cabernet Sauvignon, a little bit more alcohol level can actually mitigate the intense taste of tannin.
Awesome. Thank you so much for going over that again.
So I definitely noticed in this wine that I tasted a little bit more tannin, and it is indeed a lower alcohol. So as you were kind of saying that, I was like, oh, let's test it. Let's see if this is true. And truth be told, the Willamette Pinot has less alcohol, and you taste a little bit more tannin.
Yeah, we're talking, I think, a 13.5 versus a 14.2. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really cool.
And as Madeline said, that this is new information. That's just something that I want to call out to you all, is that we're all learning every day, every single one of us. Even someone who has achieved mastery in this, like Madeline, is learning new things every day. So the more that you can study and taste and expose yourself, the better. And always be open to being a beginner. It's okay to say, I don't know that. Or, wow, I learned something new today. I learn every day. I want to trade places with my daughter sometimes because she's 2 and she's living her best life. And I'm like, I just want to learn every day with my kid. Don't be intimidated by that. Don't be afraid to engage someone in a conversation because you think they might know more than you. Just absorb, be the sponge, and learn. New things come up.
And the other side of that is, like we've talked about, everybody has different palates, everybody tastes different things. So when you are engaging in that conversation with people, you are learning somebody else's perspective on it, which can kind of help shift what you're tasting or what you're thinking, maybe shift that in your brain or maybe confirm what you were already thinking. So you can't go wrong by asking questions and having a conversation.
And speaking of questions, Madeline asked the question, does the tannin taste more intense in the Willamette? And I would love to hear what team members say.
Yeah. All right, teams.
Tell us, peeps. Shannon agrees. Travis thought so. All right.
Does anyone remember what we talked about last week when we were talking about light-bodied reds and light-bodied red wine production that could impact the tannins? Anybody remember what's different about the wine making process for light-bodied reds versus the medium and full-bodied? Yep, Amanda says pomace. What specifically about it? What ingredient is or isn't in the light-bodied red that is or isn't in the others?
Is that right?
It's so that is certainly part of it. That's the Anna stems. There we go. Shannon got it. That we're talking, yeah, whole cluster. The stems that are often included in the light-bodied wine to add a little bit extra tannin to round out those lighter grapes. So that I think is definitely part of what we're tasting in the Willamette. I believe this is a whole cluster.
I believe so too. It is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move it on up to the Syrah. I think this is the first time we've tasted a Syrah, right? Because we've tasted some Gris, we've tasted Pinot, we've tasted Cab. So we're cycling over on our second time, maybe even third time, tasting a couple of varietals, and this is the first time we've tasted a Syrah. So this will be fun to get into. We have the Novelty Hill Columbia Valley Syrah.
Everybody, well, if you're in Virginia, you don't have the Charles Boom Boom Syrah. Everybody else does, though.
Okay.
Apparently not available in Virginia right now. As a little disclaimer, it does feel sacrilegious to not taste a California Chard on a USA wine call. The reason for that being there are so many wines that we want to taste throughout the course of this course. And since we tasted La Crema Chardonnay, just a very classic textbook California Chard on our whites call 2 calls ago, we figured we would try some other wines today to get to try some different varietals and styles.
Mm-hmm. And Chardonnay will come up again in a new form when we hit up France. So more Chardonnay to come, you Chardonnay lovers out there.
Cool. And Madeline said she will take the Boom Boom, so let's flip over to you.
Awesome. Okay. So on this wine, take a look at the color. Can you even see through the glass when you're looking at it? And with the Boom Boom, I cannot. I would say it is a deep ruby color, almost with just the slightest hint of violet, almost leaning towards more purple. So that could indicate a slightly higher pH. When you see a little more purple on the rim or violet colors, the pH could be above basically 3.6, I think, is the little secret indicator right there. So let's give it a sniff. Maybe I can call some fruit flavors in the window, and I will call some too. Almost like creamed blackberries, like you made a custard with blackberries. So there's definitely a creamy note to this. I do get some dried fruit notes, maybe more like dried blueberries. I get this subtle whiff of sort of black peppercorn. It's pretty subtle though, it's very faint, almost like somebody just dusted really fine black peppercorn powder.
And a little bit of smoke.
Definitely. I would call, smells very jammy. Yeah, it does smell very jammy, but it has some sort of funky umami note, and I think that's from that black pepper, that thing we called. Like it's almost like jam plus. All right, let's give it a taste. Although we should look at the alcohol level on the side of the glass first, sorry. It's moving pretty slow, these legs are. And they're not forming super much. I'm almost wondering if it's about 14, and that's about it, because it looks a lot like the Pinot to me. What are we at? 14.5. All right, I'm wrong. I'm low today. So let's give it a taste. All right, the first moment you look for sweetness. Going in, we start paying attention to structure. Where does the tannin feel on my palate? How does the acidity play? And then on the finish, I'm tasting alcohol and acidity, essentially. What's left over in the palate? Is there still tannin in my mouth? Is there acidity in my mouth? What's happening there? And then the overall fruit profile of the taste. But we really do pay attention a little bit more to structure when we're tasting wine in this format. So for me, I do get some tannin, but it's not super duper intense, but it's definitely much more than the Pinot Noir. And then I also have this note of this like burst of acidity that is sort of present on the finish of the flavor, and I almost wondered if they acidified this wine because it tastes almost like orange juice, like citric acid.
Can you go into a little bit what it means when they acidify a wine?
Yeah, sure. When you have a super hot climate, Washington State is sort of cool and hot because it's a high elevation, or not high elevation, but like high latitude area. So you'll have super long days, and you get a lot of ripeness in the grapes, and then the acidity levels just start dropping. And when you start making the wine, if you have a wine that's over 4.1 pH, it is highly volatile and can have a lot of problems. You can have bacterial development. It's basically like a perfect, environment for bad bacteria to grow. And it also weakens the wine, and the wine can develop volatile acidity, which is that thing that turns into basically vinegar. So a lot of times a winery in a super hot climate will put in a little bit of tartaric or citric acid to sort of balance things out. And it's not a bad thing if it's used. You'd be surprised at how many winemakers use it as a basic tool, just to adjust a point or so on their pH, just to keep things more balanced. You do have some winemakers, however, that are just blowing up super ripe grapes so they can get those jammy flavors, and then they add a fair amount of tartaric to sort of cheat and make a really tasty jammy wine with acidity that is not really naturally there in the grapes. So it's contentious. I don't really take a position here or there on it. I think it's like a seasoning. You don't want to over season things because then it's really obvious what's happening. So I'm kind of in the school of thought where I'm okay with winemakers doing it. They should just not over season. No cheating. So that's my feeling on it. It's legal in the United States, and it's not legal to do in France. But conversely, in France, they allow chaptalization, which is adding sugar, if you don't have enough sweetness in your grapes to produce alcohol level in wine. So we all have our vices, essentially.
Sugar or salt?
Mm-hmm.
What are you guys tasting? Talk to us.
Baking spices.
Sean said fruity, dry finish, but not bitter or leathery. And Shannon said tasting vanilla, dark cocoa, peppercorns, and good tannins.
Vanilla and slight anise.
Nice. Shannon, I think you just got a call out for nice tasting notes. Nice.
Do you know the next one is?
Nope.
Damn. So
I probably have it in my email. I did not think to pull that up.
we got a blend coming up, but we're not prepared with the mix.
The secret scroll.
So staying up in the Columbia Valley, we're going to move on to our Bordeaux blend, which is traditionally, if you're using all 5 grapes, is a blend of Cab, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and I'm forgetting the The next one, Cab Merlot, Cab Franc. How could I forget Cab Franc? Petit Verdot and Malbec. Allie's looking up the exact mix on this wine because we don't know.
And we're tasting two different things here. So I believe DC, Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, I think, has Secret Squirrel. And I want to say that PA, Jersey, and Maryland have a Joel Gott red blend, but that might not be right. I don't remember.
Okay.
Wherever you are in the world, we're drinking the blend. All right, Allie's got us with 43% Cab Sauv, 20% Merlot, 15 Cab Franc, 13 Petit Verdot, and 9% Malbec. So awesome, all five. Boom.
Cool. And then, thank you, Amanda, came to the rescue for PA. So the Joel Gott blend is Cab Sauv, Merlot, and Syrah, so 3 of the 5.
All right. So let's give it a look. How's our color? Super rich. Can't see through this one either. Slightly watery edge.
My bubbles have made a heart in the side of my glass, so I'm pretty sure it was. Then you looked and it died.
Oh, I killed the love. I'm not so lucky.
It's an important tasting note. Heart bubbles.
And then let's look at those legs. Dripping slowly, nice and wide. Dunk the nose. What are you guys smelling?
Sean, I like what Sean said, where it smells heavy.
I was going to say that. Sean, we're in the same brain wavelength.
Sean's making up for all making Allie read the wrong wines at the beginning.
It definitely has a richness or depth. You can smell the depth of this wine. And with all of those grapes in there, you're going to smell a lot of complexity.
This is, well, if you're tasting the Secret Squirrel, this is the largest grape component blend. How do we say this? This is the blend with the most grapes that we've tasted so far on the call.
Yeah.
So far, I think the largest blend group we've had has been the GSM that we had last week.
Yeah, just the 3.
Yeah, so we're 5. It makes a big difference in the complexity.
So I'm smelling a lot of dark black fruit.
Erez wanted to correct that Syrah is not a Bordeaux varietal.
That is true, Erez. Which wine is that in? What are we tasting in PA again that has the Syrah in it?
Pendulum?
No, that's
Joel Gott.
Ohio. The Joel Gott.
Joel Gott.
So Syrah is not typical for Bordeaux. It's just, a grape grown a lot in Washington. So that blend is not traditional. All right, let's give it a taste.
Chris from Dayton said, totally Hawaiian punch.
Well, I was going to read it and got distracted myself. Madeline said earlier, it smells like black cherry and Hawaiian punch.
Mm-hmm.
The front of that is much smoother and softer than I expected it to be, based on the nose.
Yeah, it has a little bit of tang as well.
Yeah, at the end.
Keeps going and going. What I don't think the alcohol. I'm not getting a ton of alcohol. This wine doesn't have that heat for me. It feels pretty balanced.
Can you hand me the right next to the paper towels? Thank y'all. Okay. Oh, it's.
It's 14.5, but it's not hot. Or I can just take the heat.
It's probably more likely.
We're so funny. Oh, I love it. What else are you guys tasting?
All right, we have
Very nice and smooth, very good sipping quality.
intense but well balanced. Acidity and tannin clean the palate of the rich fruit well. The creamy notes and bread flavors are likely from the yeast they've used. So Shannon had said very baked bread. Yeah. Cool. And Shannon, think about like because I know you're a beer guy too. Think about when those yeasty characteristics in the different beers and how those can come through, and sometimes you get that a little bit more bready versus like the malt from the grain. That's kind of what we're looking at here with these strains in the wine. Dried salami and green peppercorn.
We have salami open.
Yeah, we have salami here. Now I want some. Oh, Annie and Allie are both eating salami right now. We said salami and they both looked up and went.
All right, folks, we're going to keep it rolling. We're going to move on to our cabs. And if you guys are double fisting it, we are going to do a side-by-side with these as well. So we have the Joel Gott from Napa. And we have the Justin from Paso Robles.
Can you apologize for eating this one?
No, I'm not going to get into it.
I know.
Allison has chosen a wine for us that I do not like, but I'm not going to get into it.
If you don't know, it's really hard to pick a wine that everybody has in their states.
We have too many states and too many laws. God.
Oh, wow.
All right, so let's take a look at these side by side. I'm definitely seeing similarity in color here. I'm not seeing a ton of difference personally.
The very slightest, I never would have said purple in the Paso Robles, but next to the other one, it's like the slightest tinge, comparatively speaking. You laughing at me?
No, Marlon said everybody got 3 wishes. So we're talking about who has what.
Nice, nice, Marlon.
We're going to skip that
We're
one,
going to take 3 wishes next call.
All right, so let's start to smell and contrast between aromas there. Compare and contrast, yeah. Completely different nose.
Getting a lot more red fruit on the Joel Gott versus. Oh, well, wait. Maybe I'm changing my mind.
Maybe they're opening up. Maybe they're expanding.
No. So Travis said the Joel Gott has a more savory nose.
I'm getting a little bit of like violet off that Joel Gott.
Yeah.
A little bit of flower there.
Very slight. Crushed violet.
That one doesn't suck. All right, so let's taste the
Almost
Justin.
spit my wine on you.
I deserve
That
it.
could have been cool.
I deserve it. So on that Justin, I'm getting a little bit of green pepper, a little bit of vegetable. Yep, taste it too. Taste it too. What are you guys getting in the differences?
So you wanna read them?
I can't really see very well, so you.
Okay. So Chris from Dayton says Justin smells kind of I don't know how to say that word. Sanguine. Like a rare steak. Sean says pepper in the Joel got. Madeline said it's like about the Justin. It's like candied raspberries on some freshly wetted concrete, and then clarified that freshly wetted concrete is vegetable-y to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jacob from Short Pump said the tannins are more pronounced in the Joel got. Dawn agreed with that. Jacob said there's definitely cedar in the finish of the Joel got.
Yeah, the wood is definitely more pronounced in the Joel got than in the Justin, in my opinion.
Whereas Jen is saying that the Joel got comes across a bit more sweet for them, and the Justin is a little bit more tannic.
I would definitely agree that the Joel got has a little bit more sweetness. You're definitely tasting differences here between a cool climate and a warm climate, like we've been talking about the whole way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sharon says blackberry vanilla. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I do like that tannin structure though.
Mm-hmm. It's personal.
Corey says the Joel got tastes like a campfire.
We had I was with my father-in-law's last weekend. This is a totally unrelated story to anything, but it has to do with campfires. And we wanted to do.
It's related.
It's kind of, yeah. So we wanted to do a fire pit for s'mores. And my father-in-law is very creative and finds creative solutions to things. So it had been raining on and off. So I was in the kitchen and I look out the window and I see he's moved the fire pit into the metal wheelbarrow. It has the fire pit going in the wheelbarrow so we can move the fire if it starts raining.
Very smart.
Yeah, I was just afraid that I was going to like run into it and knock it over and set the house on fire. But it was super convenient when you were standing there. Like we did hot dogs first and marshmallows, and it was like standing height. You could just like rest your little thing on the fire. It was great. Yeah.
What were you drinking?
We were drinking local beer. That's not true. I had a sparkling rosé before. I was drinking things out of my water bottle because they're not a big drinking household. So
it was all a secret.
It's all a secret. I feel like I just shared a lot there. Next one.
I'm pouring. I'm going. All right, on to the Zinfandel. On to that American classic.
I believe everybody on this one is tasting the Michael David 7 Deadly Zens.
So this is our first time tasting a Zen. That warm climate.
Ooh,
Ellen.
The first thing I get on there, like, really pops is like stewed raisins.
I had the bubbled hearts, but I didn't show you.
I would have smashed them.
Yeah.
Places?
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone's just moving ahead, telling us what they smell and taste before. So I'm behind. I'm slow today. The color. Let's take a look at that color.
Beautiful.
Deep. This is like the perfect lipstick color. Where's Meg? Meg, you out there, girl?
I know Meg has this in a lipstick. Yeah.
She does. Totally does.
Yeah.
Zinfandel flavored and all. Let's take a swirl. Look at those legs. Dripping quickly.
Dripping, yeah.
Looks like a gothic deep red.
Sean's out there with the poetry words this week.
I know.
slowly getting less
Sean
mad.
has the gnarly head, so.
Oh, that's true.
What you guys smelling? Kind of clovey. I love that someone said clovey. Thanks. That's a word I would say.
Danny said baking spices.
Yeah.
Said a little bit of
Nutmeg.
baking spices and black pepper. Nose is ripe plum. I get some, like you said earlier, little stewed raisin, little stewed prune,
Stewed fruit?
plum, I guess would be
Macerated fruit.
macerated fruit. How do you not have red wine teeth?
I never get them. I don't know why. I'm so grateful, but I never get them.
I'm rocking the red wine teeth for a second week in a row.
Boom. They're beautiful.
I'm gonna start brushing my teeth halfway through the call.
All right, let's take a sip. Well, that's just round and juicy and fatty.
Raw steak smell.
Raw steak. Lots of bramble and smashed up blackberries.
Macerated blackberries?
Yeah. Jammed.
Pretty bright acidity. More so than I expected, and pretty strong tannin structure.
And
My mouth is watering
definitely
a lot.
sweetness. That's why we put this one last. This wine tastes super sweet to me. I get your acidity too. Good. Sweetie pie.
Yeah. We have ripe plums and black pepper, raw steak smell. Oh, I'm behind. Tastes like plum, blackberries, slight pepperoni spices, mocha, seasoned. Round is a good word with vanilla oakiness. Fruity notes are coming through.
Awesome. So like, I mentioned before, this is an American classic. Also, the same grape as Primitivo from Italy. We'll get into that grape a little bit later. But this is one of the wines that California is known for, and people love it. We sell a boatload of it. A really easy thing to sell, I think, too, to someone who doesn't drink a ton of wine or is looking to get into red wines, because they're very approachable. The tannin structure is usually not overwhelming. The fruit is usually very forward, which is really appealing to someone who's just getting started and tasting things for the first time. So this is a good gateway wine.
This is a fun one if you want to do something a little bit different from mulled wine during winter. This is not your traditional choice, but can still be pretty delicious.
Yeah, especially as a lot of you guys were saying that you were smelling the baking spices, the cloves, the nutmeg, cinnamon, spicy. They go hand in hand.
So as we're getting towards the end, what are your thoughts on, did you taste the difference between the warm climate and the cool climate? Did you taste the difference in terms of states, like where these wines are from versus more north or more south? What are your thoughts? Any last minute thoughts? And don't forget to sign in on the tracker if you haven't already. You have minutes left.
Pairs well with hearty entrees. Yeah, this wine feels like fall for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna braise something in it.
Ooh, yeah.
Short ribs.
Well, yeah. Yes, please.
All right, guys, we're down to our last minute. Anything else? Madeline, anything you want to say before we sign off?
I won't flip over.
Yeah, I can just talk. Thank you for having me today. It was lots of fun. Seeing how y'all are doing, and I'm really happy to see this program at Whole Foods. It's incredible. There's very few people trying this hard to do staff education on this level, so I have to commend you guys for putting forth the effort.
Thanks.
Thank you for writing such a cool book.
Yeah. Makes it a lot easier than it is with anything else.
Yeah, it's made it really easy and really fun.
Wonderful.
So thank you for that, and thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We're going to sign off to stay committed to our 1 hour time frame. But cheers to you all. Talk to you in 2 weeks.